What's up YouTube? My name is Jared Kavlie, president and founder of Pristine Auction. We are continuing our Collecting 101 series. We're going to cover a ton of topics. A couple that we've already covered are authentication, helmets, and today we're going to cover how an auction works. Okay, so a ton of stuff to cover, but really starting at the basics, how an auction works. Us as an auction house, everything that's here essentially is consigned to us. So a lot of people ask, what is consignment? Well, what that means is we don't actually own the items that are in our auction. They're sent to us. We sell the items on behalf of the consignor. We take a cut of the auction and the consignor gets the rest. So really what you see in our auction is not owned by us. We just facilitate the auction and sell the item for the consignor. All right, so one thing to talk about before we get too much deeper is the integrity of the auction house is of the utmost importance for a couple reasons. Number one, you want to make sure that the items that you receive are authentic. That's one of the most important parts of the process. We actually did a video already, if you want to watch that one, called Authentication, where we go into that a little bit deeper. But you know, here at Pristine Auction, we take that very seriously, and so every item that comes from our auction is always authenticated by a reliable source. So that's number one. But number two, taking it even a little bit deeper, the integrity of the auction itself is extremely important. So you want to make sure who you're dealing with, make sure that the auction itself is ran with integrity. As far as the bidding process goes. So that's something that, again, here at Pristine Auction we take very seriously. We have several safeguards in place to ensure the integrity of the auction itself. And then in addition to that, what you want to do for that is actually look at reviews. So there's several good sites out there for reviews of auction houses and other businesses as well. Some that come to mind are Better Business Bureau. So here at Pristine Auction we are accredited with Better Business Bureau and we have very positive reviews there. We have an A+ rating. And then Trustpilot is another one that's really good for reviews. There's several out there that are very good. If you just Google a business and then put reviews after it in Google, you can start seeing a lot of their online reputation. And that's something that we take pride in here at Pristine Auction as well. All right, so let's jump into auction terminology and go over some terms that are really important in understanding how an auction works. First one is a maximum bid. This one's super important. So most auctions like ours allow you to put a bid in higher than you need to, and that's called your hidden maximum. So let's say, for example, the bidding is at $100, but you are willing to pay up to $1,000. Well, you can bid $1,000, and the bid will only go to $100, and the system, only when it has to, is going to bid on your behalf up to that maximum bid of $1,000. So that's sometimes why you'll see when you place a bid, you get immediately outbid. That would be because someone else has already placed a higher maximum bid on the lot. So recommendation for here would be, really anytime you participate in an auction, it's really the best strategy to decide really where your top is and throw that down as your maximum bid, because the system is just going to bid on your behalf up to that price and not above it. All right, number two, let's talk about lots versus auctions. So this is some auction terminology that some people sometimes get mixed up. So in auction, for example, we'll use an example with pristineauction.com. So we have several different auction formats, one being a sports card auction that goes from Sunday to Sunday. So the sports card auction would be our auction, and within that auction there are many hundreds of lots. So, and keep in mind too, a lot isn't always one item. Sometimes a lot will be a grouping of items, so multiple items within the same lot. So that kind of tells you the difference. An auction has multiple lots. A lot can be one item, can be multiple items, but a lot is really what you're bidding on. All right, so there's something also called second chance offers. Now this isn't something that every auction house does. Several of them do. It's something that we offer our customers as well. And this is when you've bid on an item but you haven't actually won. Sometimes our consignors have multiple of those same items available. So what they'll do is, if they're happy with the price that the auction ended at, they'll say, hey, I have extras. Will you please send out a second chance offer? So we'll send it to the underbidders, and you'll have an opportunity to purchase that item for the same price. Even though you lost the auction, you'll be able to buy it for the same price that the auction sold out. Now this is formatted differently with different auctions. Sometimes they'll give it to you for your bid price, which will be less than what it sold for. With pristineauction.com, we keep it at the price that the auction sold for. So if you got underbid, let's say you just barely got outbid, you'll be offered that item. You'll be able to purchase the same thing because the consignor has multiple at the same price that it sold for, since you just barely missed out. All right, so let's talk about a couple other terms that kind of get confused. So starting bids and reserve prices. So starting bid really is not the same as a reserve price, in the sense that whatever the auction starts at, as soon as there's at least one bid, that's going to sell to the highest bidder. Now a reserve price, this really is a necessary part of running an auction house. Some consignors will come to you with premium items and they really don't want to sell them below a certain price. So what you do then is you'll start the auction low, but there will be a reserve price set. And what that means is the auction is not going to sell unless it reaches at least that price. So that's what a reserve price would be. And really what you want to see with an auction house, and we do this here at Pristine Auction, is you want to make sure that the auction is transparent and lets you know that a reserve price is active and has not been met. So we do that in our auctions as well. And then also we have several no reserve formats. So that would include our 10-minute auction, our weekly auction, our daily auctions, our Thursday feature auctions, and our Tuesday weekly auctions. Every single one of those, we don't allow consigners to put reserve prices on, so you can be confident that anytime you participate in those auctions, whatever you win the bid at, it'll be sold to you without a reserve being activated. So I want to touch on a topic really that goes back into the reputation of an auction house, and that is the topic of shill bidding. Shill bidding essentially is when fake bids are happening in order to not win the item, but to drive the price up in order to get the item to sell for more. Because of the seriousness of shill bidding, we've taken several safeguards and put them in place to ensure that shill bidding cannot happen on our website. So a few of those are every account that registers a bid with us gets verified multiple ways before it's open for bidding. And then before you can even bid, you have to put a verified credit card on file with us. That ensures that the items that you bid on do get paid for. Secondly, we have an IP address that's recorded with every action taken on our website, and we review that to look for any kind of weird activity as far as matching IP addresses and things like that. We do charge a restocking fee if items are left unpaid, so we do have the credit card on file. Sometimes that can decline. If that does happen, there is a restocking fee, and that's essentially for the same purpose. We want to make sure that people aren't winning items just to drive a price up and then not paying for them, so that's a penalty for that purpose. And then also our site actually immediately will block somebody from who's a consigner of an item from bidding on the item that they actually own. So our website knows who the consigner is, and if the person who owns that account tries to bid, it would immediately block them from placing that bid. All right, so let's talk about some of these examples, but with a real life bidding scenario. So for example, let's say that the current bid of the auction that you want to bid on is currently sitting at $100. Well, most auctions have what's called bid increment requirements. Here at pristineauction.com, our requirement is a 5% increase. So what that means is if the bid is at 100, you need to come in with a bid of at least 105 in order to have a valid bid. If you're below that, it would kick back an error and tell you that you have to increase at least 5%. Now keep in mind, a maximum bid can be much higher than that. You just have to at least bid the 105 in order to make it a valid bid. So let's say the maximum bid is a super valuable tool. So let's say that this item is at 100, but you're willing to pay up to 500. Well, you're going to want to place that bid at 500. And what's going to happen is as long as there is not another bidder above the 100, the auction will automatically take it only to 105 because that's the required increment. But it won't take you all the way up to your maximum unless it has to. So as soon as more bidders start to participate, it will start jumping up a little bit, only when it has to. But you're protected because the system is going to bid to you up to your maximum of 500. So what comes into play here, at the end of an auction, an auction gets very heavy. A lot of bidders start participating. With our auction, there's what's called extended bidding, and this is pretty common with auction houses. Think of it as, with a live auction, think of it as the auctioneer saying going once, going twice, sold. Same kind of concept. But with us, so each auction is on its own clock, and once the clock gets under 10 minutes, a new bid will jump that bid up to 10 minutes. So with us, extended bidding is 10 minutes, and each auction is on a separate clock. Under 10 minutes, it jumps back up, but keep in mind too, if it's a different format, such as our 10-minute auction, which does not have extended bidding, once the clock gets down to 0, the auction is over. So that's where what's called sniping comes into play. Sniping is the concept of a bidder coming in at the very last second, placing a bid and outbidding you without you having a chance to place a new bid if you wanted to do that. And that's why it's so important to have a maximum bid placed, because if you have a maximum bid placed, the underbidder that comes in and tries to snipe you, the auction will automatically outbid them and you would become the winner as long as it's below the maximum bid that you want to pay for that item. All right, so how to win an auction. That's obviously the most important part. You want to make sure that whatever you got your eye on, you're going to win. And a few of the things that we've covered are really the key to do that. So the first one is sniping. So in the 10-minute auction, in our auction that does not have the extended bidding, sniping is a valuable tool. So when the auction gets down to the end, that's really the best time. Because keep in mind, when people get outbid, they get notifications, which is another tip. You want to make sure your notifications are turned on if you want to win an auction. But you also want to keep in mind that others get notifications when they get outbid as well. So in the 10-minute auction, you want to wait till the last few seconds, throw your maximum bid on at that point, and then that way they don't have time to get the notification and come back and place another bid. So that's really a strategy for the 10-minute auction. With the standard auctions that do have extended bidding, my best recommendation would be to always put the maximum bid that you're willing to pay, because the system is going to bid on your behalf only up to that price. And that way you're sort of setting your budget. You know what you want to pay. You don't get too into the bidding process. And if you do get outbid and maybe you're willing to pay a little bit more, make sure you have the notifications on and ready to go so that you have that opportunity. With extended bidding, you do have a little bit of time. Once you get that notification, you can come back to the auction, and maybe you set your budget before, but you know, now that it's down to the end, you're willing to pay a little bit more. Once you get that notification, it'll get you back to the auction, and you can have an opportunity to place another bid as well. So those are probably my top tips. Sniping in the 10-minute auction, and then making sure that you have notifications on, and making sure you're always putting your maximum possible bid, because the system's gonna help you out and only bid when it's required up to that maximum budget. All right, guys, thanks for watching another episode of Collecting 101. Hope that added some value for you. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell, and if you have any questions, if there's something we didn't cover in this video, throw it down in the comments. We'd love to read those and see if we can answer those for you. Thanks for watching.